this is actually the second area where Autopilot I've noticed freaks out on this commute. So this is another area because you can tell there's a lot of construction around here. You have to definitely monitor Autopilot as it drives through. And here, okay, it's holding the turn. We're going through. What's up guys, welcome to the channel and welcome to another video. So I've actually noticed in some of my Los Angeles commutes that it's been super bright on this certain stretch of road on which I'm driving on the highway, and Autopilot gets super confused because it cannot tell where the lines are. In today's video, I'm gonna try and document how Autopilot freaks out on that stretch of highway in this really bright California sun. Let's get into the video. Thanks for watching another video, guys. If you're new here, my name is Dennis. I just picked up this Tesla Model 3 and I make videos about my experience, including a weekly Autopilot video in traffic. So right now it's about 8:25 a.m., 67 degrees out. We're driving down, as you can tell, it's really bright, so I'm not sure if you guys are gonna be able to see this screen, see my navigation screen. This is actually not the section where Autopilot gets confused. It's a little bit after the next, it's on the next highway as we continue on to the I-5. I think what also makes it a little hard for the Autopilot is that it's been a little smoky in Southern California and Northern California as well because of all the fires, so Autopilot can't necessarily probably see through all the smoke and the clouds and the haze. So we're cruising at 65 miles an hour. Probably gonna bump that up to 75 as we continue on to the I-5. In terms of the version, this is 2019.32.12.2. Tire avoidance. Yeah, I wasn't sure if Autopilot was gonna catch that tire, so I went ahead and took over. Also, if you notice, those trucks were on the side of the road right there, so Autopilot recognized them and freaked out a little bit and started braking, even though we were passing them. Probably a little too close for comfort, but it made it through. We're about to continue on to the I-5 South. Today we're actually heading down to Newport from Los Angeles Metropolitan. Heading down to Newport, looks like it's gonna be 38 miles and 1 hour and 4-minute drive. So this is the highway where Autopilot freaks out that I've noticed in my morning commutes. It gets exceedingly bright right here, and the lines on the highway between the lanes, it can't necessarily recognize as well. Hopefully we can capture it on the camera without being too bright on the interior cabin on the exterior. So it seems to be doing fine right now. It looks like we're just following this Nissan SUV. Let's get into the left lane so that it's not following a vehicle, so it can potentially get more confused. Okay. So as you can see, it's pretty bright. Visually, it's pretty bright, and you can barely see the lane markers in between the lanes. It's still recognizing it, but as you can see on the visualization screen, it's confused whether these lines are dotted lines or solid lines. And it's starting to sway a little bit within the lane because it can't necessarily figure out where is the center of the lane. I really think it's just that one part because it's just not clear between the lanes on this road and the next. I wonder if it's like the new reflective pavement that we're using in Los Angeles to try and get the heat off of the ground so that the earth isn't as hot. Or it's a different type of lighter paint so that the ground doesn't absorb the heat as much. So now it's recognizing that the right lane was a solid lane, but it's not, and then it flipped back to the left lane being a solid lane. So if you can see the visualization screen, it's recognizing these lanes are solid lanes and then dotted lanes, and it keeps flipping out between the left lane and the right lane being the solid lane. This seems to be worse at higher speeds because it's trying to calculate quick enough, but once we get to the lower bumper to bumper traffic, it should be completely fine. Couple sudden brakes for Autopilot right there because the SUV in front of us is trying to get into the right lane. I would say Autopilot is doing pretty well right now. Just pacing the car pretty smoothly in front of us at 58 miles an hour. Typically we run into a little bit of traffic coming up ahead. Oh, so here we go. Autopilot cutoff number 1. It didn't do too bad. That I expected that. It didn't do too bad that cutoff. I was expecting it, so the braking wasn't as sudden for myself. So I've noticed time and time again that Autopilot really doesn't necessarily know how to navigate construction zones. It freaks out almost every single time in the construction zones because the GPS is probably telling it it's going a certain direction, but once you enter, and because the construction zones can sometimes change or alter the direction of the lanes, Autopilot can definitely get confused because it's not a traditional lane. So the left lane is definitely moving faster, so let's go ahead and get into that lane. For a second there, Autopilot thought that the lane was a solid lane. It keeps flipping back and forth if you can see the screen, but it's still allowing me to go into the left lane. We're heading into the construction zone now where I've noticed Autopilot has gotten a little dicey. As you can see, we have the concrete borders on the left. Coming up, we see the lane does a sudden right angle and then comes back to a left. So let's see how Autopilot reacts today. Pretty smooth, the left one. Coming back. So Autopilot now is doing micro corrections left and right because I guess the concrete borders are a little too close and then these cars on the right side are a little too close. So now it's following the left. And also to add to it, this highway is like a white concrete, so now it's going to get even more confused on this area. So now thinks that there's a left lane on the left, but there isn't. It's actually just the emergency lane. Motorcycle lane splitting at 68 miles an hour. That's safe. Pretty smooth today, actually. There's actually not a lot of traffic this morning, which is surprising. We haven't ran into any bumper-to-bumper traffic. Pretty smooth sailing, 60 to 70 miles an hour. Okay, I'm going to slowly start making my way over to the right as we have an exit coming up in 3.6 miles. So we're going to let auto change go ahead. Pretty smooth, no cars, easy enough. I'm going to do it one more time. There's a truck ahead of us, no cars on the right lane behind us, easy enough. And I think we'll just stay in this lane for now. Definitely on the open highway with no traffic, auto lane change does really well. It's really only when we're in some sort of traffic or bumper-to-bumper highway traffic that it just hesitates way too long and takes forever to make its decision. It's just cautious. Pretty open highway. Autopilot is recognizing the lane, the lines in between the lanes. So this is actually the second area where Autopilot, I've noticed, freaks out on this commute. because of the old highways lines, it thinks that the highway is going that way, but it's actually going this way. So you see how there was a line there that goes that way? I've definitely had it a few times where it just continues to follow that line, and then you have to correct it while the highway is going to the left, while the lanes are going to the left. So this is another area, because you can tell there's a lot of traffic, construction around here, where Autopilot, you have to definitely monitor Autopilot as it drives through. And here, so there we go, perfect. Autopilot followed these lines that are going this way because that was the highway in the past, and so it just completely diverted to the left. So good thing my hands were close, I was monitoring, and I knew that was gonna happen so that I could correct it as Autopilot went to the left instead of going straight. So any sort of construction zones, you really have to be careful with Autopilot, and you really have to monitor it as you drive through the construction zone. Because also it's probably referencing the old GPS data instead of the new one. Instead of what's actually here. So now you can, to describe what's happening, Autopilot's accelerating then braking because it's confused because it thinks that the highway is going left, but it's actually going straight because of the construction. So it's braking, it was accelerating, slowing down, kind of shifting within the lane until it finally figured it out. And there we go again. Autopilot cannot see the lanes right now because of the bright sun, so it just veered to the left, trying to follow the GPS data probably, and while the highways and the lanes were going to the right. So this section of the highway is on the 5 still, near Buena Park, and just Autopilot just completely cannot handle that area. That's actually the worst I've actually ever seen it. Typically it's okay, but there's also because there's traffic at that area. But I'm gonna make this exit 4 lanes over to the right now. Yeah, typically it does fine in that area because there's more bumper to bumper traffic, so it's just following the cars. But we were probably going at 50 to 60 miles an hour, and it just could not handle that area at that speed. It could not handle that area, that construction area at that speed on Autopilot with all the cameras. All right, welcome back. So we're about to get onto the 405 South Highway. We're on the on-ramp right now. I can actually trigger Autopilot, which is pretty interesting if I'm increasing speed. So I'm gonna see if I can try and trigger it before we get onto the highway. Okay, so we're on. So right, it's on full auto steer right now, Autopilot, just following this on-ramp. Is there a meter? I don't believe there's a meter, so we actually might be able to go through all this pretty easily. Okay, it's holding the turn. We're going through. Some more construction zones. It seems like a lot of California highways are being under construction right now, so Autopilot is having a grand old time navigating through the highways. I realized earlier that my polarizer was on, so that it probably made this screen completely dark, which is unfortunate, so you probably couldn't see any of the visualizations as we were driving through all those areas. But hopefully when we recap the footage, you can still kind of see the car like trying to go to a certain direction and then making an error with the lane. So Autopilot needs to merge onto the highway right now. We're going pretty slow. The question is, do we allow this to kind of do it itself or just let it just figure it out? So I'm gonna hit the left lane trigger. No, this is too slow. I'm gonna go forward. All right. And right at the last second. Okay. Trigger Autopilot again. We're in heavy Los Angeles traffic or Orange County traffic at this point. We're about 4 miles away from our next exit, about 20 minutes away from the destination. Okay, so we're in standstill bumper traffic right now. There was an on-ramp to our right, and so the lane kind of expanded, so Autopilot was a little confused. It's happening again right now. The right lane is merging into the left lane, so let's see how Autopilot handles this. Pretty easily, we're going pretty slow, so It has a lot of time to calculate. Oh, there we go. Autopilot freaked out a little bit, wanted us to take over the steering wheel. Okay, and that's it. Thanks for watching this video, and comment below if you've had similar experiences in construction zones with Tesla Autopilot. Love to hear what your experiences are and if you've had some quick darts like we had today on our commute. Hit that like if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!